Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Frozen Soul, No Place of Warmth, out May 8th on Century Media Records. The album has 11 tracks, 36 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are an American death metal band. Now, when it comes to the overall design of this record, I can't find any flaws with how this album is put together. From the choices of songs, the fluidity that they create throughout the entire record, to being under 40 minutes, these are all elements that add to the overall playability of the record, never mind the playability of the individual songs. You can have great tracks on an album, but you need to learn how to design that album so that the overall experience is as good, as memorable, as strong as the individual tracks on it, and this record definitely has that combination. As far as the sound is concerned, first of all, the production on this album is nothing new. It's something that we've seen with Frozen Soul through the previous records, but they have really perfected this fat sounding style production. I love it. The tracks are not dense at all, regardless of how heavy and how brutal they are. The quality of the sound is excellent, allowing you to really see the forest from the trees with every single song that this album has in store for you, allowing you to hear the impact of the bass, what the guitars are doing, more driven, a little bit thicker, more chugging, a little bit more penetrating. The drum sound is outstanding on this record. So the way everything comes together on this album sonically really has a significant impact on how much you're going to appreciate the tracks. This album is not overly produced by no means. It actually has a little bit more of a punk attitude to it. At least you feel that punk attitude in the way the record comes together, in the way the songs come together, feeling a lot more organic, a lot less premeditated, and having that more organic vibe instilled into the overall record adds great character to the individual songs, but it adds great character to the record itself. And then with that fat production behind it, it makes it for a very memorable death metal album all around. And when you look at some of the more individual elements, like the bass for example, not jarring at all, but constant, impactful in each and every single song. Some tracks obviously given a little bit more room to shine, but overall you could really hear the impact of the bass and how much is helping with that overall fat sound and the overall width of the songs. The drums sound phenomenal on this record. They have two abilities of adding size and thickness, but also adding size and stretching that size a little bit more with thinner outer points, which to me it's really important. Every time you hit those cymbals, you're stretching out that sound, but it doesn't feel as thick. It feels a little bit more narrow, which gives more internal movement to the tracks. So the drums to me was one of the major highlights of the overall sound on this album, because they just resonate. They just have such soul to them and such impact in the heaviness of the tracks and on the size of this album. Now, once you get to the guitars are heavy, groovy. There's some thrash metal elements on this album. It's not just a pure death metal chugging riff here and there. It's an album that also introduces other aspects of other genres into it. I would go as far as to say even a little bit of black metal. You can find that on some of the darkness of these riffs, but it's an album that guitar-wise has a lot of ideas, and it offers a lot of ideas, and I think that's important. It doesn't allow the album guitar-wise to be one-dimensional. This record does a lot, and it's a very groovy sounding death metal record through and through, and allowing those more groovier riffs to come in and break the linearity of the heavier chugging definitely makes for a better experience. It definitely makes the songs feel more dynamic, and it gives more movement to the guitars as well. Once you get into the vocals, there are a few guest appearances. Devin from Sanguisuga Bog, Rob from Machine Head, and obviously Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance. Having 3 cameos on this record, or 3 guest appearances, adds a different flair to the album as well. So when you look at the overall playability, going back to the original point of the discussion, when you look at the overall playability and you're looking at the fluidity of the tracks and you're looking at the short length of the record, when you add guest appearances, you're adding another element of surprise. You're adding another element of uniqueness to that specific song that therefore has a positive impact in how the overall album is designed. Having those guest appearances in the first third of the record is also a good idea, because that's where you start to set the table for the uniquenesses that the record has in store for the listener. as you navigate deeper and deeper, there are other elements that change, but the vocals start to become more consistent. So you're playing with two sides of the same coin. Try to change a little bit of the sound so that the songs are unique, and keeping some of the same structures in line, and then changing the vocals so that that part of the tracks stays unique. So it's a very interesting approach vocally that this album takes. I really enjoy the guest appearances, but I also really enjoy Chad's vocals through and through. I thought his vocals were phenomenal. I always love how they put him a little bit deeper in the mix. He feels a little bit at the distance, but that adds incredible darkness to their heavier sound. I don't think you can look at Frozen Soul just as a heavy band. I think they're a band that creates really dark and deep songs, and his voice, his style, and where it sits in the mix definitely helps with that sort of experience. When you put all of this together, this is hands down my favorite Frozen Soul record. I really enjoy this album through and through. I think it has all the right condiments, the guest appearances, the length, the fluidity, the uniquenesses of the songs, bringing in some more grooviness, bringing in some more thrash style riffs. Definitely breaks away from the monotony of always sounding like a through and through death metal band, without ever forgetting that that's the DNA and that's still the core of the band. But adding all of these other pieces definitely makes songs richer, and it makes the experience a lot better. Once we come down to the favorite three songs on this record, at least for me, the top three are Eyes of Despair, Ethereal Dreams, and Killing Time. Starting off with Eyes of Despair, great riff, great drum sound for this track. The opening solo is incredibly old school. You used to see that a lot in old school death metal bands, but also old school thrash metal bands. So that's something that it really feels like Slingshot to the past and the influences of Frozen Soul. It's a track that has really powerful vocals, massive sounding song, as all of them are on this record. The drums are incredibly good on this track, helping with the width, but also helping with the overall size of the song. The guitars driven with a fat chug behind it, and then the closing breakdowns really put an exclamation mark on the entire song. I love the way the track closes with that heavy breakdowns, really setting the tone, putting a stamp on the song itself. As far as the Ethereal Dreams are concerned, I feel like this was a very Sepultura style song, very Roots era Sepultura style song, and you can see that in terms of how the song opens, but I think you're going to see that also as the song develops, and especially when you get more to that thrashy style sounding riffs that this song definitely delivers. It's a little bit of a thinner track, doesn't feel as fat, it doesn't feel as big, but it gains size as it progresses. So it starts out a little bit thinner, gains size as it progresses, very driven. The vocals definitely add a level of darkness to the song that's way more noticeable than perhaps in Eyes of Despair. It just comes across a little bit better. A lot of grooviness as far as the guitars are concerned, which makes the song a little bit easier to digest. It's not, like I said, it's not as of a big track, or it's not as a fat track as some of the others on this record. So having a little bit of a thinner song definitely makes the record more dynamic, but as far as the track itself is concerned, it also makes the track more approachable. It's not a one-dimensional song by no means, and you're going to see that in the dynamics that the guitars offer, in the blend of more thinner melodic black metal style riffs, for a lack of a better term, mixed in with some more thrashier, groovier sounding riffs, and then with the heaviness of death metal behind it. This track really gives you a wide array of experiences just from a guitar standpoint. Last but definitely not least, Killin' Time, almost a more punk style track, and you can see that in the length of the track itself, but you could also see that in the attitude that the song has. It's a very ballsy song. It has a lot of attitude in the sound, in the vocals, in the experience, in the design. The drums help give this song a little bit more substance and size for sure, filling in the gaps perfectly, and then the chorus allows the track to slow down, because in the verses the song is incredibly driven, some of those punk influences coming through in those verses, but then putting everything to almost a stop, allowing the chorus to be slower, heavier, almost pacing, but the ability to slow down that chorus and give those characteristics to that chorus allow the track to be incredibly memorable. This song by far has the most memorable, hookiest chorus on the entire record, not just because the way it sounds, but because of the way the vocals come across and the lyrics themselves. Incredibly hooky, incredibly catchy, that punk attitude represented well on a really short, impactful track that closes off the record. This is it. Frozen Soul, No Place of Warmth, once again out May 8th on Century Media Records. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.